Hello, this is Arnel Tanyag with Tanyag Company. I am doing my weekly work week. So I'm doing June 30th to July 4th. So again, my name is Arnel Tanyag with Tanyag Company. Key leaders in construction, real estate, and trades seek me out who are at their breaking point. They struggle to perform to meet goals and objectives due to tremendous pressure and high levels of stress of their role. They don't care for themselves, leading to burnout and uncertainty about hiring, training, and leading a team to solve their challenges. We have proven systems of success from top consulting, top training, and top coaching firms. We know what we excel at and refer the rest to our extensive network of experts who work with us. No one can compete with us. So we're talking about the work week, and I'm going to be sharing some unique nuances or new things that I learned this week that I pay attention to. The thing I've learned this week that was really interesting is, have you ever thought about building relationship capital before influencing somebody? So what does it mean relationship capital? There are people we have to influence to help us help them move forward. It could be our spouse, it could be our key employee, it could be our partner. So the question is what relationship capital do you have that you've already built into your schedule? So I have a client. He has these monthly meetings with his spouse about financial management, and he's like, "Look, it's a difficult conversation, but if I don't have my lunches, my breakfasts, or my time, because my wife's love language is time, then when I have those conversations, it doesn't go well." I said, "Well, because you have to have that relationship capital." He goes, "That's got to be your top domino to build that relationship. So even if you have, if you have circumstances or uncomfortable conversations, it's coming from the heart, it's coming from the purpose that you want to accomplish." Then I have another client who has a partner in the business, and they started just working out twice a week, and that's the relational capital. If he does that to spend that quality time, that capital, that relationship capital, that so like that social capital, that what am I doing to invest in that relationship that helps that person feel safe and comfortable? So if I need help or if I need to move in that right direction, I can, because I'm actually investing in the relationship. And the most powerful thing is most people, you can keep telling people what to do, but eventually they're not going to listen to you, or they're going to rebel or just shut down. But if you continually build relationship capital, especially with the top 20% or the top 1% or top 5% of your relationship, whoever the relationship person, professional that you really need to influence consistently, you got to build relationship capital. And it can be simple as working out, writing a handwritten note, spending quality time. I mean, there's a book called The Four Languages of Love, knowing people's love language, how they perceive you care, or this book calls Love Them. You really want to know, because the more you can build that relationship capital, the more you can influence them without informing them or telling them what to do. Influencing them basically means you can communicate at a high level and they buy in. Informing them and telling them what to do, they may do it, but after a while, if they don't understand or doesn't feel that you care, it won't be sustainable. Imagine, here's the thing, is a cool thing, and I was thinking about this. Imagine if you can expand your mental and emotional capacity in today's business environment. Have you noticed most business people I talk to, they have reached their capacity, but not in capacity from a sense of emotional and mental capacity. They're not able to break through to that next level. They don't know how to expand that mental emotional capacity. Especially after COVID, I think people may have decent, stress type of processes or ways to keep calm or ways to just feel mentally good about themselves, emotionally good. But I'm realizing now that, in today's world and everything's changing, how are you maintaining or expanding your mental and emotional capacity into today's business environment? Because if you're growing your business, and you got to do X, right? But you're doing so many different things you've never done before. Like you got to lead a team. You got to basically learn this new skill, spreadsheets. You got to go and know how to communicate to people. You got to, say you're a very emotional person and you can't do outside processing, right? Because that doesn't seem like it's going to work for you. So how do you build your emotional and mental capacity? And I tell people like one of the best ways to do that is read the book Positive Intelligence and use the PQ app because they teach you to learn how to be positive intelligence so you can expand your emotional and mental capacity. Because right now, there's a lot of information that gives you data on information, but it's not teaching you how to build the muscle. There's muscles in our brain, in our nervous system that we can expand that mental and emotional capacity. And PQ is one of the only few ways and resources that I've seen. So think about it. Imagine if you can expand your mental and emotional capacity, what could you do? I mean, I have clients right now that we're expanding their emotional capacity and they're reaching some, I call monumental goals that they just are blowing out of the water. I mean, one company is working on getting, they have got to 5 million up to this date in June, and their goal is to end 10 million. So now he's like, all right, Arnel, I got to get to 10 million. I got 5 million for the first part of the year. I'm going to be working my tail off. I got mentally and emotionally capable, working on my team. I'm going to get another 5 million and we're going to break 10 million. I was like, wow. Because emotionally and mentally, his capability, his capacity to handle all these things going on, he's able to do that. Because if you're going to grow or scale, you're really growing, scaling your mind, your mindset. And if your mindset is positive, you can increase your, mental and emotional capability. And that's what you really want to do, especially if you're purposeful and grow. And the other thing that's interesting, what was your reaction if you realize that your homeostasis, whatever your balance right now, is whatever your balance to maintain that level, if you can build that to another threshold? Because one of the things that I've learned that over the last year, when we're working with clients, we're working on them, helping them understand, which is most important. They got to keep raising their threshold. They got to be able to manage the stress. They have to be able to take care of themselves. They have to be able to be very purposeful. They have to look at what's a gift and opportunity, accept and be at peace. How to make decisions that isn't out of fear, but out of love. How to, extend my threshold. How to make my homeostasis at the balancing. And that's really internally. How do I get it to another level so I don't let all those things from wearing all the hats, family members, the car breakdown, all that stuff just shut me down internally. And then because I'm affected by external factors. So, what would be the reaction if you get your homeostasis to get that new level? And I tell you, a lot of clients I'm working with, when they get to that new level of homeostasis and they built that new threshold, man, everything is possible, because they know it's about working on them, working on their mind. It's your mind you have to work on. They always say mindset. But what does that mean? You're working on your power, your mind, how to be calm, how to really look at knowing what's around you externally, what is real or not real, and what's really something that's important and not important. So that's what happens when you have the threshold of your homeostasis grow. You know what? This week I also learned that somebody asked me, Arnel, do you need a relationship pipeline for referrals? I say, why not? How can you determine who are you building relationships without having a relationship pipeline for referrals? And what a relationship pipeline is referrals is looking at relationships who you're the number one expert in that field. Number two, they're willing to learn how to either refer or introduce you. And then what are you doing to maintain those relationships to help you by giving you introductions, referrals? And what are you doing to help them so they're inspired and motivated to do that? How are you helping them as much as they help you? And do you have that relationship pipeline? People say, I don't need it. Well, then how do you manage the relationships to develop them into raving fans or advocates who can give you referrals and introductions? I think you need a relationship pipeline, especially if you're building based on referrals. Because when I ask people how many referrals you have, who gives you the most referrals. If you have a relationship pipeline, you know who gives you the most referrals. Who's number one? Who's number two? Number three? Or who are you moving to convert to number 1, 2, and 3? You're like, oh, without that, you're just going around trying to figure out to looking for a client or referral source. But you got to have a relationship pipeline for referrals. It's interesting. I was talking to a couple of people in associations, and no one's really talking about this. And what's nobody talking about, Arnel? If you're in an organization, your organization, doesn't matter what they are, trade, they should be doing an orientation for members coming in or renewing. I mean, I belong to the local builder association called CVBIA, Coastal Virginia Building Industry Association. It's formerly known as TBA and PHBA. And what nobody's talking about, and I tell about that, is that you really need, every organization should have an orientation of what's working now, what's working in the future, what do we got going on. Like CBBAA is like a 70-year plus organization combining Peninsula and the South Side, TBA and PHBA. And people remember Homerama, but do they remember what's going on now? What are they bringing to the table? How to make it work? So organizations should be talking about, hey, we have an orientation. We have something to show you. How can you benefit from being a member? Like, so I'm responsible for the membership committee. And so my number one goal is making sure that people are aware of what the membership benefits is, how to plug in, how to tie it into their goals, how to make it work for them so they constantly will know the value. I mean, the organizations I've been part of, the ones who do really well have an orientation. So now you can learn how to navigate through the organization and know how to get the value you need from it. A lot of organizations in the past don't have that. And so no one's talking about it. Let's make a change. Now, if you're an organization to have an orientation, ask them, hey, how do we get an orientation? You really need that, because that's the only way I believe you're going to be able to figure out how to get the maximum return of your time and commitment, so that the organization not only grows because you become long-term members, but each single year it gets better and better, your involvement, and better in getting the opportunity for business. Some of you guys are going to hate me for saying this, but one of the things I have done over the last couple of weeks, I have prayed for business owners and business people in need. I find out that sometimes, you can talk about all the answers and all the challenges, but sometimes you just got to pray for people. I mean, that's one of the things I've done. I prayed for last week for an owner or two. I prayed for a person in sales, and it just because we're talking about strategy, we're talking about all these opportunities, but I'm like, look, sometimes prayer changes people, and you gotta, you're gonna hate to say that. Do I pray? Yeah, I do pray. I mean, I'm led by the Spirit, and I do pray for people. I mean, I usually do it once or twice a week. I mean, I have some clients that we start our session, our working session, on prayer in the beginning, prayer at the end, and during the week I drop some prayer videos, some Instagram, stuff like that. So verses, because I believe that if that's what you need, then let's encourage it. And I do it. I mean, I pray often, and I pray for clients. I pray for referral sources, because very rare to have ever had anybody turn down prayer. And then if I'm led to pray, I will. So some people are going to hate me saying that, but you know what? Prayer is part of who I am, and I'm an intercessor, and I do pray for people. Sometimes I get really busy. I got to snap myself. Okay, I got to keep praying. I pray for myself, but I got to pray for other people. So, and prayer is a game changer. And from my experience, it has. So I just want to let you know that even in my role, I do pray for people, and it has been, for me, it's been great, just because sometimes that's all we can do is pray and intercede. Other times, I think it's great for the people who receive it, because they know somebody cares. Here's a controversial question. It's going to be controversial. And I've noticed this when I'm talking to business owners, especially men. And I ask them this: are you a businessman with a family, or a family member with a business? This is going to be controversial, this question. Are you a businessman with a family, or a family man with a business? And that's a very interesting question, because I think when a man starts a business, they don't know they build one or the other, or they're kind of confused. So I find some, like one of my longstanding clients, he is a family man with a business. He prioritizes several trips through a year with his family that's already scheduled, organized, and he builds a growing business where family first and business second. And I said, there's nothing wrong with that. You just got to have a really good team. You got to structure it well. And, he actually is very thankful that we're allowed to look at his schedule, tighten up, build a team, leverage, add leverage, learn new skills. I mean, he's a family with business. Then I have some men who really don't even know what that is. And they're like, I think you're a businessman with a family. What does that mean? You would rather work in your business 24/7 and do that and have a family, right? And that's okay. I mean, look, here's the thing I tell you. It's a very controversial statement and a very controversial question. Are you a businessman with family or family with business? But at the end of the day, it's up to you. But you got to know upfront what it is so you can build the business toward that. Some business owners are family with businesses. So they prioritize their family and they still have great numbers. Other people are businessmen with family where they prioritize the business and the family second. And that's okay. I just feel bad for the spouse or the child or the children because they didn't really know which one are they, Like for me, I hate to say it, I'm a businessman with a family. That's, I was taught to just keep work. And I think my kids and my wife have anticipated. I'm moving to transitioning to a family man with a business. And to do that, I have to make some changes in my structure, charge more, hire staff, have meetings with my family about scheduling. So it's interesting when you really know the difference, businessman to family, family man with a business. You can see how a business owner can structure their time, structure their relationships, structure org chart, structure, what's important to them. And that's a very controversial. So if you're a businessman, ask yourself, are you a businessman with a family or family? But, and I work with both. I mean, majority of my clients are family man with the business. And the challenge is here's the most important challenge. They haven't figured out which one they are. And I said, look, you got to pick the one. Family man with a business or businessman with a family, because that's going to give you peace of mind to structure your business, structure your process and systems, have, conversations with your spouse and kids so everybody knows. So that's what I learned this week is the work week of these several key topics, these several key things I'm sharing with, because every week I just want to share what I've learned and then share that with you so that you can learn and you can take these little nuggets and apply in your business. And if you have any questions or you need any help or you just want to talk to me about anything I talked about, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, thanks. This is Arnel Tanyag with Tanyag Company.